Hi, I'm Jackie with ArmyWife101.com, and today we've got Amanda Huffman. She is also known as Airmen to Mom. She has gone from active duty to diaper duty, as her website says. She is one of our veterans, and Amanda, I thank you so much for your service. She was with our Air Force for 6 years. Then she made a massive transition to becoming a stay-at-home mom, and additionally, she has now just put together a book. So we're going to talk to Amanda today to hear her story as far as what she did for our country, what she's now doing for her family, and now what she's doing for other female service members. So Amanda, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Oh, absolutely. You too. Amanda and I met last year at the Military Influencer Conference back in September. And I was so excited to meet her because she's just one of many military influencers that have also had military service. And I think that story needs to be told again and again because I know a lot of people assume it's mostly men, and it is.
Right.
But I have encountered so many amazing female service members who are now veterans, they're military spouses, so they're still in the lifestyle and they're still doing everything they can to support the community.
Right.
And you're one of those awesome people.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, Amanda, can you tell us a little bit about your military service?
My degree is civil engineering, so I went to Fresno State in California, and I did the ROTC program, and I commissioned. My husband and I met in ROTC, so we were lucky to get stationed together, and our first assignment was at Holloman Air Force Base in Alamogordo, New Mexico, which is a town of like 30,000 people. It's pretty tiny. And he commissioned a year before me, and so I was able to move and be stationed with him. And I worked as a civil engineer in the environmental flight and then in the engineering flight. And the F-22 was in the process of coming to Holloman, and so there was a lot of engineering projects going on, and it was really a cool job. We would just go out and go check out all the construction, and sometimes we got to see the F-22. Sometimes we got to see like the F-117 was retiring when I was there. So it was a really cool time to be at Holloman. And then I found out I was going to deploy to Afghanistan. I think I'd been in about 2 years because I was a first lieutenant, two and a half. And I went to Afghanistan with the Army. The Air Force and the Army have agreements that they will loan out their officers or enlisted or whatever to meet the needs that the Army needed. And so I went to Afghanistan on a provincial reconstruction team as a civil engineer and was under the Army and got to be in the Army. People would actually come up to me when I was deployed because I was Air Force, and they'd be like, where did you because I would wear like the uniform you could wear outside the wire. They'd be like, where did you get that? I'm like, I go outside the wire. So, and it was kind of funny. And then, so I was there for 9 months. It was 4 months of training and then 9 months deployment. So it was almost exactly a year. While I was deployed, my husband got accepted to get his master's and he moved to Ohio. And my colonel was also married to someone in the service. And so he was able to do a lot of magic behind the scenes and actually got me assigned to Wright Pat to be with my husband like a month or two after. Yeah. I was like in Afghanistan when he found out he was going to school and like there weren't really any jobs for my career field. I was like, well, I only have 6 more months left, so I'll probably just get out. And then, but I was able to stay in for a few more years and work in the energy section at Air Force Materiel Command at Wright Pat. And then I got pregnant with my first son, and I decided that with his career field and my career field and deployments that it just didn't make sense for both of us to stay in.
I see that happens a lot with a lot of dual military couples when they're looking to expand their family. They always kind of come to that choice of, well, what do we do? And I've talked to some where they both stayed in and they've both deployed, and sometimes grandma has the child, and
right.
A lot of tough choices. But that's a very big decision. So you decided to get out of the military and become a stay-at-home mom. So there goes your salary, there goes your rank, there goes that sense of camaraderie you've had. What was that like, transitioning from airman to mom?
It was really, really, really hard. And I had no idea it was coming. Like, I went to all the classes and they were like, you need to get a job. And I was like, but I'm going to stay home. Like, my life's going to be great. And so it was really a hard switch to leave the military. And then I don't know if it was worse because I was a military spouse, because people, I don't know, it was kind of, but I went from being someone that people would like ask about, like, oh, you're in the military, tell me more about it, to, oh, you're a mom, okay, and then move on. So that was like, it was really a hard transition just to go from being someone who people like admired to someone that people didn't care about at all. I guess is the easiest way to explain it. So, and maybe because I'm a female, people never expected. People still are like, "You're a veteran? Are you sure?" Like, yes, I am. So.
Gosh, yeah, I know that a lot of my friends have said that as well too, who are they're veterans and people just think I was just their husband and they're like, no, we both served. So
Right.
thank you again. I think that's so admirable for what you and your husband have both done. So so let's fast forward to now. How many kids do you have?
I have two boys, 6 and 3.
6 and 3. Okay, so you're busy.
Yeah. Yeah. So one's going into first grade, and then the other one does preschool during the school year. So yeah, summer has been kind of crazy.
Yeah,
So.
summer's always crazy. Mine are currently in camp right now, so I can have a nice, quiet conversation with you.
That's always nice.
Yeah. So, what's amazing to me is that you've made this massive transition. It's been a matter of years now, and you seem to have really embraced this. What gave you the idea to start the blog airmentomom.com?
So I think it's a funny story. So when I had a little baby who didn't do anything that the books told me he would do. And so I found a blogger. Her name's Lisa Jo Baker, and she was doing at the time this thing called 5 Minute Friday, where she would throw out a prompt word and she would write on it, and she encouraged everybody else to write on it. And so I think my oldest was like between 4 and 6 months old, and I was like, if I could write for 5 minutes once a week, I will accomplish something. And so it really started out like 5 minutes once a week to write on a random prompt word. And then when I started doing it consistently, then I was like, oh, I can like make a blog on WordPress. It's free, and I'll just do that one prompt a week. And then it just slowly grew over. But that's really where it started, was she was encouraging people to like write, and I started doing it, and the community she created like encouraged me, and so that's where it started from.
Oh, that's incredible. I started doing something similar myself. And I felt that because I stepped out of the working world to become a military spouse. And I loved that I was there to catch every milestone. I made some amazing friends. I got to do all the play dates because I was working all the time and I'd see people, posting pictures of the park. And I thought, I'm going
Right.
to do that. And I did it and it was fulfilling to some extent, but I needed more. And
Right.
so during nap time and bedtime, I started writing. So I can absolutely relate to having that creative outlet and then having something tangible to show, like, this is what I accomplished.
Right. Just when you clean the room, then you're like, what? What just happened?
I know, I just cleaned it.
And now they move, so it's even worse.
Exactly. So that's wonderful. And then you were able to turn that into something that you could monetize, right? You've had some sponsored posts. And
I started doing some sponsored posts, and and I've actually been able to start doing freelance writing, so I've been getting like a consistent income every month, which has been really nice and really rewarding. So it's fun to share my story and get paid.
Oh, absolutely. That's like the best of both worlds. And you're able to work from home, which is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
We both know this military lifestyle between all the moves, deployments, trainings. It is nice to be able to just take your brand and just pick it up and go wherever the military sends you.
Yeah.
So is your husband still serving currently?
Yeah, he's still in. He's been in, I think, 13 years this month.
All right. So he's going to go for retirement.
Yeah, we're almost there.
All right. Yes. More than halfway now. You're getting there. That's wonderful. Well, I would love to talk about your new book. What was it that inspired you to write this new book, Women of the Military, which, by the way, if you're watching, it is available now on Amazon. I've got Amanda's website, airmentomom.com. There's a link up at the top for her book, and you can go buy it now. But
Yeah.
let's learn some more first. Or you can buy it first. That's fine.
Yeah.
I know. So tell me, what inspired you to write Women of the Military?
So I did a 31-day challenge right when I started blogging, and it was expanded the 5 minutes, but it was every day for the month of October, and I picked the topic of military, and so I just wrote random stuff about military life, and I started to get like some traction and followers, and then I like kind of went off on some wild tangents of like natural birth and breastfeeding and all these crazy things, and like nobody was following me, partly because I was all over the place and partly because I was outside like what I should have been writing about. And so then I kind of moved back, and so in 2017 I decided to do a deployment series, which I thought was going to be a bunch of stories from men, mainly men and some women, about their experience in the military, but instead of being mainly men, it was all women. I got one response from a guy, and the rest were all from women. And then my uncle, who deployed to Vietnam, told his story, and then I had 2 World War II stories. So yeah, but those are the 4 men who responded, and then the rest were all women. Most of the women I had never met before, and I was so inspired by what I learned from their experience that I wanted to learn more about what women had done. So I dropped the deployment part and just focused on women. So I changed it from deployments to women. And I was going to repeat the series and do 31 days again, but we moved last summer. And when I had all the interviews done, but I still had to like load them on the blog and like do all the work, and I just felt really overwhelmed. And I had wanted to like get sponsorships, to get paid for the series because I thought it was pretty neat. And so I was talking to one of my friends, and she was like, "Why don't you just not do the series and do something else?" And then we talked about it, and I decided to put them all in a book, and then now that's where they are. And so yeah, so it was kind of not well, it's kind of accidental because I was kind of just focusing on deployments, but then when I started hearing the stories of women and like what they had done when they were deployed, and like I thought my experience was unique because I went on convoys, but I'm just one of many women who have done that. And so it's really cool to hear all the different stories and all the experiences that women have had.
That's awesome. And you've done a podcast as well, right?
Yeah, I do. I have a podcast as well called Women of the Military, and my story's on the podcast and one other woman who's in the book, but the rest of the podcast is like totally separate. So this year I've done 54 stories between the book and the podcast of women who've served in the military, which is really exciting.
It is. Congratulations. I know
Thanks.
it took a lot of work and coordination, and
Hmm.
kudos to you. You actually made it happen. Oh,
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's really cool to hear the stories, and a lot of the people, even when I was doing the written interviews back and forth, they talked about how they never had talked about their experience to anyone. They had like served and then like they left and nobody ever asked them about their experience. So it's kind of like a healing part of the process because they get to share their story, and like I'll ask like personal questions, and I give them, the ability to say no because it's their story, but I'll dive in and ask more questions, and like some people will be like, "Oh, you're deployed? Oh, that's nice," and just assume like I want to know like the details of like what happened, and so it's kind of a healing process for them, and it's definitely a healing process for me because I don't feel as alone as I used to feel as being like one of the only female veterans, but they're actually all over the place. You just can't see them.
well, and you're connecting them and bringing them together and giving their stories a voice, which I think is really important. You're right. I every time I've talked with male veterans, they will tell stories because I didn't serve, but I've been close enough to the lifestyle, so I can
Right.
talk about duty stations. I know certain acronyms, and I can listen and I ask. But I think with the women, I don't know that it ever came up if we were at a play date and there were 5 of us and one was a veteran. I don't think she was ever swapping military stories. Everyone's talking about diapers and not sleeping.
Right.
So
because that's what the life you're in. So
yeah, it's like you have this old identity and this new life, and how do you bring the two together?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're doing a really good job of that by telling these stories. So that's fantastic. I can't wait to read it.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So for those of you interested, I'm going to pop the link up again and go to airmentomom.com. Amanda's new book, Women of the Military, is available now on Amazon, and you can find a link on her website for that. And do you have anything else you'd like to add today, Amanda?
Well, if you're a woman who served or is currently serving in the military, I'd love to connect with you through either, I'm working to share more stories, either both in book and podcast form. So whatever is you're comfortable with. Most of the women in the book actually are anonymous. So I like to give people the ability to share their story, but not have to put their name to it, because some of the stuff that people go through is really personal. And so that's an option. So I'd love if you reach out to me or contact me, because I'd love to find you.
Fantastic. Well, and I absolutely encourage you to definitely tell your stories, definitely talk to other veterans, especially female veterans, because I'm sure you can all understand each other on a level that maybe the men can't, maybe the civilians definitely can't. So I think it's wonderful that you're creating this community. I've got some friends I'm definitely going to send your way, Amanda, because I've got some in the Air Force, women. So
Great.
I can relate. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in today. Be sure again to go to airmentomom.com, and please thank our guest. Wonderful to have you here, Amanda Huffman. And I look forward to seeing what you do next. You're just on the move.
Thank you so much. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
All right. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye.